Welcome once again to class 2 for the Python for Data Science program. My name is Grace, and I'm the lead instructor for this bootcamp program. So joining me today is Itoro, and we would be taking you on the recap of for the previous sessions that you should have covered. Yeah, so we'll be going into that shortly. So, but before we go on, I'll just like to show you through the content, what you should be learning, what you should have covered before this class. Okay, so last class we covered we did a recap on the Python for data science. We focused on installation and environment setup, introduction to Jupyter notebooks, introduction to Python programming, variables and data type, list and conditionals, conditional statements, and for loops. And this class, our focus is on dictionaries, tuples, sets, function packages, streamlets. Okay, so I believe that you all have been able to access the learning management system, learning platform. We are trying to, get as many people that are having issues joining to get on board as quick as possible. And I think we've been having, positive progress regarding that. So I'm just going to go right into the learning platform. Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying to access my programs. My network is a bit draggy. Oh, okay. I think this is my network. I'll get on it as quick as possible. Okay, it's taking while it's loading. While it's loading, it's taking a while to load. While we're at that, I believe we've all followed. If you've been following the content, like if you've gone through at least the content for class 1, can I see some reactions so that I would know how far? I just want to have a general, overview of our progress. How many persons have gone through the content for class 1? If you have, you can just react on the group. Okay. Oh, I didn't see any hand raised or any person reacting. It's my network. Changing the network. Hello, can you all still hear me? If you can hear me, can you? All right. Okay, I just had to change my network. Sorry about that. Sorry for the break. Okay, so if you go to your programs, you should have covered the following concepts. You should have covered today is Friday, and we are supposed to be doing our live class, right? And that's what we are doing right now. So before today, you should have covered the video. You should have seen this video which is our past bootcamp recording on dictionary, tuples, and sets. And then we have another one. We have functions as well. And then we have a module on building Python web app using Streamlets. Okay. And then, so those are the things that we'll be doing a recap on today, because the mode of this bootcamp program is that you're supposed to have, gone through the content. Then what we do here is to do like a brief recap of what you've learned. And afterwards, we'll be having a quiz break for 10 minutes. Then we have question and answers to trash all the questions that you might have had. So during the course of the program. So if you'd like to ask questions, we have a Slido link on this bootcamp curriculum. You just go right to the link and drop your questions. We'll be prioritizing the questions on the board before we answer other questions in class. All right, so let us get started with the recap of the class. Okay, so we'll be going as we stopped at for loops. So we'll be going through a notebook on dictionaries. But before I get into dictionaries, I would want to mention some things about lists. And in the program, we're talking about manipulating lists, right? There are different ways by which you can manipulate lists. You can update a list. You can update the content of a list. You can delete the content of a list, right? Which we explained in the video recording. However, you have to also take note that when you're copying contents of lists, now given this particular list A, B, C, D, and then you're copying the content, it's possible for you to copy these contents of this entire list X and copy it into another variable called Y. And when you do that, it's going to give you the same result. But you have to be aware of the fact that when you've copied it, it also updates anything you're doing on the copy affects the original copy. So, for example, I want to update the position 2 in this. Okay, this is the old list, and let me print out the new list. The new list is Y, right? Let me print out the new list Y, and this is the new list. So this is the old list X, and this is the new list Y. All right, so we have ABCD, ABCD. Now, for example, I want to update the content of Y, which is the new list. I want to update it, like change. How do you update? You select the location of the list. For example, I want to change C to Z. I want to change C to Z, and C is what at location what 0, 1, 2, that is at location 2. That's how you get out your C. But then I want to change it. And how do you update it? It's just by assigning it the new value. And that is Z, which is my new value. So when I do that and I print out my Y, you can see that C has been updated to Z. But then let's go back to our original list. Okay. Okay, our original list. This is our original list. Okay, now you can see that our original list as well has been updated to Z because of what we did on Y. So in order to so the reason why we are learning all these data structures is that when you get into data analysis, when you want to start analyzing your data, all of these little things could cause an error if you don't know how it works, if you don't know how a list works, if you don't know the peculiarity of what a dictionary can do or what a tuple is. So if you don't really understand how they work, it might affect your data analysis process when you're doing your data analysis. So all those little bits are just building blocks towards what you'll be doing afterwards. So in order to prevent this from happening, what you can do is to create a new list. Instead of just assigning Y equals X, you can say Y equals list X. Okay, you can say Y equals list X. So in that way, it sees Y as a new list different from the original list X. I believe you understand that. And so when you do that, for example, we want to change now the elements in DDA's D, want to change it to P. Now let's check what's happening. And we're going to print our Y and X to see the result. You can see now that our Y, we can see that D has been updated towards P, but then X still remains the same. So that way you're able to preserve your original list. Okay, so I just thought to mention that before we get into dictionaries. So if you have questions, once again, just keep dropping them on the Slido link and we would address them during the Q&A session. Okay. All right, the font of the presentation, let me try to do that. Is it okay like this? Is it better? I need a reaction. Is the font okay now? Okay, I believe it's okay. So let me just continue. All right. Okay, thank you. I got that. All right. So moving into dictionaries, we started off with in learning Python, we started off with variables. What is Python programming? Then we started off with variables. We looked at data types like your ints, your floating point number, your Boolean, your strings. And then we started coming into data structures like your list, and dictionary is a data structure. And why do you call it a data structure? Because when you're dealing with data, Python for data science, when you're dealing with data generally, you have to like organize your data. Like what you have on Excel is a tabular form of data. But in Python, in order to build the tabular form of data, you have to understand how to do how to use dictionaries, or how to use, that's when you start talking about pandas for data. It's a Python library for data manipulation. We'll go into that later in our in subsequent class sessions. But for dictionary is another kind of data structure that helps you to organize your data in a more intelligent way compared to a list. A list is limited. Lists are limited because they can hold as much as all different type of elements. We can have a string element, we can have integer, we can have a mix of different values in a list, and you can update a list, you can delete elements from a list. But when it comes to organizing your data, a dictionary is better. So just think of dictionary as your normal dictionary. Think of it as, for every dictionary, if you go to a dictionary, you have what? You have a key, where you have a list of definitions, items that you want to look out for, your lookup value. For example, I want to look for a definition. What is I'm just looking for a word. Okay. What is an object? Okay. What is an object? For you to find the definition of an object, you have to go to your dictionary, and what do? You have to go to look for a key. And when you get the key, that's the key, that the word you want to define, then you find out the associated definition for that word. Okay, that's how a dictionary literally is structured. Now, bringing it into Python, the same way, to build a dictionary, every dictionary comes up with a key and a value pair. It's called a value pair or values. Okay, so this key can be an integer. It's a single key. Bear in mind, it's a single key, just like a word you have in your normal dictionary. But the value can be any data type. It can be a string, it can be a floating point number, it can be a Boolean, or it can even be a dictionary itself. It can be a list, it can be a list. Yeah, so the dictionary can hold different for each of the key. Like Israel is having blue, you can have Israel as list of other states within Israel. You can have that in a list. under this dictionary. So that's how to build a dictionary. So, and then take note of the curly braces. A dictionary has a curly brace, when you're defining a dictionary, and it has a key and a value pair. All right. So you use dictionaries to create, to organize your record in a very structured format. And so we'll be looking at quickly some of the like indexing a dictionary. So all of these concepts, if you want to get a more robust explanations, you have to go through the content of the element. So what I'm just doing is just a brief recap, just to go through the content, like a summary. All right, so I might not be mentioning some specific details, but I'll just be touching on key things. So if you want the more intensive lesson, you go through the videos of the previous bootcamp on the LMS. All right, it's also on YouTube as well. Okay, so moving forward, defining this dictionary, Israel blue, Meshach red, Triumph pink. All right, you have a dictionary called colors. For you to index out this dictionary, you can easily use the key to index out the dictionary. So if you want to get out Meshach, if you want to get out color red, you use the key called Meshach, or like a list. A list, you use what? You use the position of the elements in that list to index out the list, the elements in the list, right? But then in the dictionary, you use the key to index out the list. Okay, all right. So now, for example, if you want to use the position just like we do in lists, it's going to throw an error, and it's going to tell you there is a key error because there is no key called 1 in this dictionary. So take note of that. All right. So in dictionaries are indexed with their keys. Now, this is a list, a dictionary with a list, all right, where we have this is the first key in the dictionary. Edo, the capital of Edo State is Benin, Ekiti, and all of that. And now USA, you have a list of all the cities, states. All right. So you can have a list within a dictionary. So this dictionary, like you can hold a list within a dictionary. So that's to show you the flexibility of a dictionary. Okay, so how about updates in the dictionary? For example, you want to delete an element from a dictionary. You can use your del function, and then you index out the element you want to delete. For example, you want to delete Lagos. All right, it's saying name error, name states not defined. That means I have not actually loaded it. I didn't run the cell. That's why I'm having that error. So you take note of how to debug as well. Okay, so if I run the cell now, it's now telling me, now I know what states mean. Before, you didn't tell me what states mean. You're just telling me states, and how do you expect me to know it? So that's what Python is telling me. Now I've defined states, and now I'm printing out the value. Assuming I want to delete Lagos. So I'll just say states and then Lagos. Okay, so it has done that. All right, so let me print out the dictionary again. States. So when you run it now, you can see there is no Lagos in this dictionary anymore. So what if I want to create another state? I want to add another element in the dictionary. Okay, I want to add another state in Nigeria. I can say I want to add a state called, which state is not here? I want to add what states. Someone can give me a state if you are in Nigeria, or you can give me any state and your capital so that I can add it up in this list, in this dictionary. I'm checking the charts. The first person to do that, I can. Okay, Abuja, FCT. All right. Abuja is the federal capital territory. Okay, assuming I want to insert another state, I could just say Abuja. All right, that's the key, and then I give it what the value that I want to I want to affiliate with Abuja. For example, I just want to say FCT or whatever you want to put there. And when I do that, I've already inserted that state in my dictionary. So when I print out states, you can see that Abuja FCT has been included. So those are ways by which you can, manipulate your dictionary. You can, there are other functions you can check, you can do with the dictionary. You can check the length of the dictionary. Sometimes you can have like thousands of records, elements within your dictionary. You don't know the length. You can use your length function and it prints out the length in your dictionary. Okay. And then how about indexing out the list? Assuming I want to get out Texas from this dictionary. How do I go about it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say states. You remember that when we want to index out, we use what? The key. The key of this particular list is what? USA. So I'm going to say USA. All right, that's the first thing. So when I do that, it's going to get me out the list. But then my goal is to get out Texas. And Texas is a list now. It's not a dictionary. So now I'm going to switch to using what? My location number. And that is what? 0. Texas is in location what? 1. So I can just say 1 and then gets me out the value for Texas. All right. I believe we understand that. Okay, so moving forward, okay, we talked about Booleans already. So let me just touch on functions. Okay. Sorry. Let me get back to the notebook. Functions, methods, loops, map and filter. All right. Okay, let me touch quickly on functions. Just a minute. I'm trying to get to the, all right. So what are functions? Now, but gradually we are already getting to, writing some small codes. Now we've talked about Booleans. We talked about variables, we've talked about data types, we've talked about data structures. Now we are gradually going into writing codes. And function now in Excel, in Python, it's a piece of reusable code to solve a particular task. You think of it as like if you want to add two numbers together, you say A plus B, right? But some person has written a particular code that you don't have to use A plus B to add the number. You can just call the person's function called maybe sum. Somebody has defined a function, or Python has a function called sum that can just add the two numbers together for you, instead of you writing the code from scratch. So that's, just think of function that way. Instead of you doing some things, from the beginning, you can use some codes that has been written before. So just think of it that way. So we have some Python functions already built, like, we've used type. When we're doing the variables, when we're defining a variable called 7, and then we said that if you want to check the data type, you can use the type function, and then you give it, the type function has an argument. You have to give it a particular argument. If you press Shift tab or Control tab, Command tab on your system, it gives you the definition of that function. You can see the documentation is telling you that the type function, it takes in an input argument, one input argument, right? And then it's further comes here to say that the type is a name basis dictionary. So you can put in an argument such that it returns the data type of that function. Here are the arguments is A in this case, and then it's telling us it's integer. So without this type function, if you had actually wanted to find out the data type of a value, you would have written maybe lots of line of code. I don't know how many, but if you go online to check Python definition of type, you find out that somebody has done the work already to write lots of code. So instead of you writing lots of code to print to generate this output, you can just use a type function and then it gives you the output. So think of function that way. So we have lots of functions that are Python inbuilt functions, but then you can also decide to create your own function. And that's where programming comes in, like you knowing how to start thinking around solution. That's why we had to go through our control flows, how to use your if statements, how to use your for loops, how to use your while loops, so that because all of these things can be used within a function. So because this is not very this class, we are not going into so many detailed, explanation. I would walk you. There's an exercise on the LMS that you should have done. Let me check if you should have done it or if it's coming after the class. Let me see. Okay, yeah, it's coming after the class. There's an exercise Python crash course too that that will be open tomorrow for you to try your hands on. So, but then I can just go through because of our time. I can just go through how to approach the assignments when you're trying your hands on it. Okay, so I'm going to open that after I finish going through this one. Okay, so you can decide to create your function. So assuming you want to create a function, okay, that you can think about any problem that you want to solve. Assuming I want to create a function that adds adds three numbers together and then divides it by 3, or like the mean. I want to create a mean function where you have to add the numbers of a particular value together and divide it, so the first thing I have to think about is what is the function going to be doing, what action is it going to carry out. So that's the first thing I have to formulate in my mind. So when you hear of algorithms, your algorithm is to write the step-by-step process of what you want to achieve. How do you want to create the function? So the first thing I want to know is, I want to set that, okay, the first thing I want to do is, when you want to make a comment in Python, you can use your hash, right? I want to say my function creates 3 variables. I want to create a mean function that has 3 numbers. I mean, a mean that calculates 3 numbers and divided by 3. That adds 3 numbers and divided by 3. So variable. Then Then to write the expression. Okay, so these are the key things I'm going to do. So, but then how do you write a function? You write a function using your def command, def, and then you give your function a name. I can give it any name. All right, I can decide to give it any nice name I want, or you can use, but usually you give your functions intuitive name that relates to what you're trying to solve. So here I can say, I can call it average. So there are some user-defined variable. I mean, Python reserve variables that you cannot use. So let me just use AVG. Okay. Then this is the syntax, right? For every function, this is the syntax. You write your def, the function name, and then you put a brackets. Inside that bracket, you have to define what your function is going to accept. What are the inputs? So in this case, I want it to accept 3 variables, and I want it to be A, B, C. So it can be anything. It's not compulsory the variable, but then I'm saying that my function has to accept 3 variables, and then you have your semicolon. So the next thing you're doing is automatically a Python is going to give it an indentation, like a tab. So that's how the function is defined. So you have the def, AVG, ABC, that's the inputs arguments, then my full column, and then now what you're going to do in the next step is the expression. What are the what is the expression I want? What expression do I want to give my function? So here I want to say that my function, which can be anything, z is equals to, it has to be a plus b plus c plus c, all right, all divided by 3. All right, so that's what I want this function to perform. Anybody that calls average of these 3 numbers, this is what would have been happening. So, and then I want it to return something. I want it to return. You can either use your return keyword or you can use your print statement. Anyone is accepted. You can say return z or print z. So I can do the either way. Let me just do print z. All right, so I've created, okay, there is an error. Sorry, I thought I was in my Python Python environment. I've forgotten that I was in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so we have this. All right. This is our function has been defined. Now, the next thing is to test our function. Is our function working or not? So how do you test it? You test it by calling it. Now, you've defined your function. You have to call it. Call the function. Now, calling the function in this case is that you want someone else to use the function in your code, or you want you to reuse it. You can either reuse this function or you can make it accessible to another person. And when you want to make it accessible to another person, that's when we start talking about packages and the rest. Okay. But here we're just doing our own user-defined function where we want it to be used in our code. So if you want this to be done, you can just say average, right? And then you can now specify. Now, if I want to give it, I'll now say 234 and maybe 500. So if I load this function, it should give me the average of these 3 numbers. And when I load it, you can see that I don't have to start calculating, so whatever elements I put in here, it gives me the outputs. So that's the beauty about writing your function. So this function can be so complex. Sorry, it can be a complex function, a simple function, however you want to write your function. So this is very key in especially when you want to do data manipulation, data cleaning. You'll be writing a lot of functions that you feel that you'll be able to solve your problem. All right, so that's why it's good to have a fair knowledge of functions. So if you want to watch more specific explanations on functions, you can also go through the video. I talked about local variables, global variables, how you define your arguments. There are some you can have a default argument, different type of arguments, and all of that. I can't cover that here because of our time. Yeah, so I just thought to just give a general overview of how to write your functions. All right, so yeah, so you can decide to put anything. If you put 50, you can see the result is changing. Now you can see that this is giving me 28,666. So if I want it to be a round figure, I can decide to say, okay, I want my my results to be a round figure. Okay, I can say z equals round z. Round is already a function that has been defined in Python. Okay, so I can just say this. All right, so you can see that now it's not giving me decimal point anymore. I have a rounded figure. All right. Okay, so here now, if you see that if you put 2, because I didn't use a default argument, it's throw an error to tell me that missing one required position argument C. So you see that my function has to follow the format that the original creator of the function had defined. So here you see that it's throwing an error because the person that is using the function is not following the format. So here it has to be 3 arguments. So if I put 1 argument as well, it's not going to work. Except if I put default argument, if I put a default argument, it's going to work, right? If I put a default argument, you see that it's working. But because the person creating it didn't set a default argument, that's when it's not working. All right. Okay, so here you can see the error. All right, I just thought to mention that I need to run on, let me just touch on additional things quickly. Okay, so we can for Python inbuilt functions, you can use your help function as well to check the round, like to check the function. Like if you want to find out what the type function means, if you use your help function, the help function is something that has been written. It tells you what the type function is. So you can use to read all the documentation. It pulls out all the documentation from Python and then it shows you the documentation in your notebook. Now let's touch on methods. What are methods? Methods are a kind of Python function that belongs to an object. So it's a function that belongs to an object. Now, the difference between a function and a method is that if a method is associated with an object. So an object in this case could be your data types, like your string, your string, your floating point numbers, your lists, your dictionaries. So a function that is associated with an object is a method. And why do you have methods? You have methods to help you. Like for example, in your string, for your strings now, you have a name called Prosper. Instead of you thinking, maybe you might be writing a code and then you need to capitalize Prosper. There is a method already, they're already designed to do that, associated with a string object called capitalize that you can call. So you see how this is used. It's different from the print. The print is a function, your type is a function, your round is a function, like the way you can see the way this one is used here. Max, mean, sum. There's so many functions like that in Python, right? But here, this one is a method. It's associated, capitalized is associated with a string. All right. So it works with string objects. So if you want to do name.capitalize, I have to load name first. You see that it has capitalized Prosper, that is, has given it it has capitalized the first first number. Sorry. Okay. There is I wanted to change it to uppercase. I think I'm missing the syntax. All right, so let's just continue. All right, let's just continue. We have the dot capitalize, we have the dot replace. So what dot replace does is that you can actually replace some. So if, for example, you made a mistake, you wrote prosper, you want to change it to prosperous. All right. So you can use a dot replace function. I want you to replace R to what? ROUS. So you can see that your prosper. So now the challenge of it with this is that anywhere it says R, replaces with rush. So you have to take note of that as well. So that's what the replace does. It replaces every occurrence in that string with what the new value is, and that's what the replace function does. All right, so you have a function that is the method that is available associated with a list as well, called the index method. So here you might not know the index. You might have a very long list and you want to find out what the index of that list is. Okay. You're saying that my typos are in small fonts. Okay. I don't know what is happening, but then here I can see it very bold. Okay, let me just try to increase my font again. I hope you're able to see this. Okay, let me do it one more time. Let me zoom out again. Okay, I think this should be good. All right, so I'll just have to continue gradually. So I was explaining the lists. You can do your .append, .replace, you can do .index for the list. For example, you want to get the index of, you might have a very long list called country. Saying the country is not defined, so I have to go and load it up somewhere. It has been defined somewhere. So let me search for where country was earlier defined, or I can retype. Okay, let me just use states that I've loaded before. Sorry, this view is making me very, it's making it difficult for me to navigate. So let me just reduce it a bit. Okay. Trying to see where I'm coming from. All right, I think here. All right, okay. So let me use states, because states has been defined, right? Okay, states is a dictionary. I wanted to use a list that already been defined. Let me look for a list that had been defined, or let me just define another one. I wanted to prevent rewriting it. Okay, let me use another one. Okay. All right, so this is country. Now, so we have this countries, and then, for example, you don't know what the index of Cameroon is double, or you don't know what the index of Cameroon is, and then you have to use your .index method and give it Cameroon, and then it tells you that is an index 3. So we have, those are methods. So methods are associated with an object, okay? And then we have the count as well. What the count does, it counts different, it counts the number of occurrence in that particular list, okay? I've talked about the capitalize, I've talked about the replace, I've talked about okay, for the append, now you can also append an element to a list. When we're talking about replacing or updating the list, right? We have the .append method that appends, for example, you want to append it to the beginning of a list, to the end of a list, you can use the .append and it takes Germany to the end of a list. So I've talked about user-defined functions already. For example, you can create your own function that calculates the square of any number and returns the result. You can create a simple interest function that somebody else can use, and and all of that. Okay, so I'm trying to rush through because of our time. I should be done with this session by 9. Okay, we talked about control flows yesterday, right? The if-else statements. The if is a conditional statement, and it helps you to look through to check for a condition. For example, you're writing a code and then you want to check or maybe you want to create a password verification system whereby you need to validate what the user have submitted. Okay. All right. You want to validate what the user have submitted, and you want to say you want to create, what is your name? All right. Okay, so you want to create a system whereby you want to verify if somebody's name is actually the name that has been stored in database. Okay, so here you're creating a variable, and where it collects from the user, what is your name? So now what this thing is going to do, so eventually when the person gives me my name, I want to say if the name the person gives me, right? If the name the person gives me is equals to Grace, then you tell the person, oh, sorry, it's incorrect. If the name the person, let me stop this. Okay, let me interrupt this canal so that I can finish writing my I want to finish writing my code before executing this. Okay, so I just interrupted it. Just let me finish writing. So I created an input where to collect a value from a user. Then if the person, if the what the person supplied, right, is equals to Grace, then I want to say, let me put this in brackets so that it can. All right, if the name equals Grace, then you're saying that Prince you supplied the correct name. Else, all right, else. So you have the if else statement, you have if, elif, and then else. Okay, that's if you want to have more than one condition. So we are just dealing with two conditions here. Else, if the person's name, that is, if the person's name is not Grace, you can just say Prince. Sorry, that's wrong. Try again. All right, let's try again. All right, so this is what we are trying to do here. Let me copy, control. Now let me put it here. This is what we are trying to do. So assuming we want to see, okay, well, let's say guess my name. Let's use guess my name. All right. Okay, so now the first thing is guess my name, and then I supply torch. You can see what is happening now. Say sorry, that's wrong. Please try again. You can see what is happening. All right. So here we've been able to we've written a code. This is like a mini code whereby we have to use an if else statement to test the person's condition. That is what the person supplied, if it's a correct answer or not. So usually use loops in when you want to check for a particular condition for the correctness or whether it's right or wrong. So here you can see that. But now let's run this code again and say guess my name, and the person says Grace. All right. And let's see what happens. You can see you supply the correct name. You can see that that's working well. So that's where you use your if else. So we can further improve this and even allow the person to try this process more than once. We can use, that's when you have to use maybe a for loop. All right, you can have a loop that will tell you, okay, please try again. Please we'll just loop the whole code for if this for high in range, this that is if the person tries like 3 times, you can give the person 3 trials and you can further improve it and write. But then this is not a software development program, so we're not going into writing codes, and then we're just focusing on what's the application of our knowledge to data science. So like, we're just going to proceed from there. But then I'm just saying that your if statements and your else statements can, help you to achieve a whole lot if you know how to use it. So go through the video as well to, to further learn all the concepts. So I want us to just touch on map and filter, then I would go through the assignment that I mentioned so that you can further understand some of the concepts. All right, so we have the next thing, which is the map and filter. And what you do is, why do you use your map and filter? You use it to help you now your map. Oh, okay, sorry, your lambda. Your lambda is a short way of writing a function. So instead of you to write a very long function, you use it to write a very quick short function. For example, there's this function called times two. That is, you want to multiply, you want to multiply any number by two. So instead of writing your function this way, which is a good way to write the function, you can use your lambda to shorten it. You can just say lambda, then your x, that is the input that you want the person to supply, x, then the full column, then the expression, that's the formula, the expression of the of supply. So anytime you use this function, it still does the same. So, but then it's not really reusable, like you defining your function separately. So you just use it once and that's all. But it's just a short way to use a function. Now let's see how it's being applied. Now, for example, you have a list, right? And then you have I want to talk about your map as well. You have a list called my lists, okay? Okay. And then you have your lambda as well. Okay. So you can now say that okay, sorry. I want to talk about this times two function. So you can say that you can use your map, that is y equals map times two, that is this function, comma my list. That is, so what it's doing is that it's going to apply this function on this list and then give you the results. Do you understand what's happening? Times two function has been defined, right? Which what it's going to do is going to multiply all the elements in this list by two. And then when you use your map, so when you print out your y, you see that your y is giving you a map, but then you have to return it as a list, and then it gives you the elements multiplied by two. You can see this 2 times 2 is 4, 5 times 2, 10. It's multiplied everything by 2. So that is the way to use a function and a map together. So you can use it when you're working with very large data sets. Okay, so you can see that here, this is a function called lambda, and then you're having the lists. So you're using the map to map the function with that list so that it will calculate a particular to calculate the result, and then you convert it into a list. So you actually use lists and map together, because you have to convert it to a list. If not, it will be returning an output like this that you can't really interpret. Okay, so I believe we understand the concept of map now and list. Now let me talk about filter. For example, also performs the same thing as map. Now this is the list, right? And then you have your lambda, which can be used to create a simple function. I mean, like a simple function. Here, your lambda, what it's doing is finding the remainder of the modulo. That is, it takes 2 modulo 2, right? And checks it equals 0. If it's equals to 0, then it saves it into the list. So that's what this function is doing. If you use the lambda, right? If I use it alone, I won't be able to see anything. I have to apply it on a list. If I map it now, if I map the function with my lists, I do something like map lambda. I want you to see the output of what this function would do. My lists. Okay. Let me run this lists and then run this. Now, it's not going to give me any result until I convert it to a list. If I convert it to a list, right, you're going to see the results. Okay, now it's telling me that it's a true, false, because this is a condition. It's checking for a condition, a true, false statement. But then I can use a filter to give me my results, what I want to actually find out. You know, because now the condition only satisfies 2 and 8, because all the other ones, the modulo is the remainder after division is 1, they are 1, right? But then here, this one is 0 and this one is 0. So in order to get my correct value, I can change it to a filter, right? And then you can see that it's giving me 2.8, because here I'm using a condition to for this list. All right, so that said, I think I've covered basically almost all. And one thing I didn't talk about is package and Streamlit. So there's a lot to cover. So, but then I'll just talk about the packages quickly. A Python package is used to help you organize your codes. It's used to help you organize your codes, and you can easily have several. When you have several functions, you can have several functions. But then when you want to organize your code such that you want the different functions to be used for a particular purpose. Maybe most especially when you're writing a very large project. So you need to create like packages for your task. So I just want to show you, we're going to touch on that when we talk about NumPy and pandas, right? But then I just want to, just give you an example of what the package looks like. Okay. So what the package does is, we've talked about functions and methods. They're extremely powerful, and you can use other people's code to solve your problems. But then your code can be in a big mess if you just have function here, function there, function everywhere, function, and then you're not having a particular order to what your function is doing. And then that's when you have to create packages. So packages are the directory of Python scripts, different functions, so you call the scripts, different functions that have been written to serve a particular purpose. So we have, when you hear pandas, NumPy, scikit-learn, Seaborn, they are all Python packages. So we'll be looking at NumPy from next class. All right, so NumPy is numerical Python, and we'll see how powerful NumPy is. All right, so for you to use a package that somebody has created, you have to import it, okay? Or before you use it, you have to install it using your pip command. And the command is pip install the name of the package. So you can see here that if I've not actually installed NumPy, normally it comes installed by default when you're installing your Python, but sometimes it might not come installed by default. You have to install it yourself. So you have to go to your Anaconda, or if you're using Anaconda distribution, you have to go to your command prompt to do pip install the package name. So that's the command pip install num. For example, if I want to use NumPy, I can say pip install NumPy. Then after installation, I can now import NumPy as, and give it an alias. So don't worry about all of this. We're going to be touching on that for next week. But I just thought to, mention that in this class, since we talked about packages. It's 9 o'clock. We're supposed to go into our quiz break. But for Streamlit, the reason why we're touching on Streamlit is that after you have actually built your maybe your ML, your machine learning, your data science model, you might need to have to allow external users to interact with it. And Streamlit is a very powerful tool that helps you to, easily create a front end. It's a front end interface. You can create a front end interface without writing HTML and CSS codes like that. You can use the inbuilt Streamlit library. So I want you to go over this simple video in class. It was also taught during last class. Watch the recordings for this class on Thursday class, right? To watch the recordings, and then we touched on how to use Streamlit as well. inside this recording. So I might not be able to touch all of this because of our time. And then you can also watch another, I linked up Data Professor's YouTube video as well. You can also watch how to, build your first data science web app in Python. So understanding this concept will help when you get into, for people that are, going to go with us through the machine learning model. After building your model, if you want other people to interface with it, you can use Streamlit to create the front end so that people can interface with it. And then it's actually working like a mini application that other people can use. All right, so that said, before the question and answer, I believe it's been it's been a wonderful time. We're going to take a quiz break and just to do like a kind of recap of all that we've been talking about. Okay, we're going to do a quiz break. So I'm going to share the link for the quiz. We're going to start up the quiz soon. I'm going to share the link on the group so that you can start joining the quiz. Okay. Let me drop it in the group. So we have 8 questions, 20 seconds. We want as many people to join as possible. It's going to help you just to further understand the concepts we've been talking about. So ensure you join the quiz. That's the link. I just posted the link on the group. And I'm going to share, I'm going to project as well. Project the link so that you can see it from your end as well. So can start joining the quiz and let us have fun doing this. Okay, so I want everybody to be on this quiz. I want everybody, please try and join. I'm going to give you like a minute, 2 minutes to do that before we go into our question and answer. Okay, I'm still waiting. Have 1 minute more. We have 14 people. I want more persons to join. You might not have to answer the questions if you don't know it. So just attempt it. It's going to help your knowledge of what you've done. What you've been learning. Okay, is anybody joining again so that we can start? Okay. We're starting shortly. The quiz link, you cannot see the quiz link. You can just use the Slido, the Slido link. If you can hear me, the same Slido link that you're using to ask questions, that's where the quiz is. So just go there and just select you have the Q&A, you have the poll. So your interface should look like this. Let me load it so that I can show you. So here, so just come to, you have the Q&A, then you have the polls. Come to polls and then enter the name, your name, and join. All right. So that's how you join the quiz. Okay, I believe that would help. Okay. Are we ready? All right. I think we can start now because of our time. I think more people are joining, so let me just give some time. We have 10 minutes for this, so let me give some time for the quiz. Okay, are we ready so that we can start? Okay, I think we have a good number now, so let us start. We're starting. What is the correct way to define a dictionary in Python? What is the correct way to define a dictionary in Python? 14 seconds more. The correct way to define a dictionary in Python. Okay. Yeah, so we have 21% says my dict, then the square bracket, 11% says the curly braces without the full colon. Then you have 68% say C. Okay, so let's see the answer. Let's see what the answer is. The answer is C. Remember, I mentioned that the dictionary has what? A key and the value pair. So it can be in any format. So just bear in mind that you have a key. The first thing that, that helps you to eliminate your option is the curly braces. The dictionary comes in what? A curly braces. And then then this is not a dictionary because it does not have a key and a value. So this eliminates your option. And then this is the final answer. I believe you understand the difference. Okay, I didn't mention sets and tuples, but it was taught in the class. We have the sets and the tuples. They are also data structures. The tuples are immutable, they are unchangeable. Like you can update elements in you can update the elements in a list. You remember you can update the elements in a dictionary, but when it comes to your tuples, you cannot update the elements in the tuples. That is, you cannot do indexing. I believe you understand what that means. Okay, so they are immutable, but dictionaries, you can update the elements in a dictionary. So just remember to mention that, and you can use the curly braces also to define your sets. Your tuple comes in your